Welcome to Infidelity Truths. Before we dive into today's gripping story, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us create more thrilling stories just for you. Let's begin.
I never meant for him to find it. That diary was my Pandora's box, sealed with 2 layers of duct tape, stuffed inside a cardboard box labeled old junk, and hidden behind a dusty suitcase in my mother's attic in a small town I'd sworn I'd left behind forever. It was a relic of a girl I'd buried, a version of myself I'd spent years running from. So when I walked into that attic and saw Tyler sitting there, cross-legged, flipping through its worn pages with a curious smile, my blood turned to ice. He didn't know the girl who wrote those words, and I'd gone to great lengths to ensure he never would. I met Tyler 3 years ago in New York, at a rooftop party thrown by a mutual friend. I was 27, a graphic designer with a tidy little life I'd built from scratch. My apartment was small but mine, filled with plants I somehow kept alive and sketches pinned to the walls. I liked who I'd become. Steady, creative, dependable. Tyler was a breath of fresh air in a city that could choke you with its pace. He was a high school history teacher, kind in a way that felt effortless, with warm brown eyes and a laugh that made you want to lean closer. We bonded over bad karaoke and cheap wine. And by the end of the night I remember thinking this is someone I could build something real with. But building something real meant keeping the past locked away, where it couldn't taint the future. Tyler asked questions as people do when they're falling in love. "Where'd you grow up?" he'd ask over coffee. "What were you like as a teenager?" Or "Why'd you leave home for the city?" I gave him polished half-truths, just enough to satisfy without opening the door to the chaos I'd left behind. "Oh, I was kind of a shy nerd in high school," I'd say with a laugh. "Bookish, kept to myself, nothing too exciting." He'd smile, charmed by the idea of a quiet, unassuming younger me. I let him believe it because it was easier than the truth. The truth was I wasn't shy. I wasn't bookish. And I was far from innocent. Back in my hometown, a sleepy place where everyone knew your business, I was a wildfire. I was 17 and reckless. A girl who thrived on chaos and control. I manipulated people like pieces on a chessboard not because I needed to, but because I could. I lied with a smile, dated boys for the thrill of power, not love, and surrounded myself with friends who were more like accomplices in my schemes. My diary from those years wasn't a collection of dreams or crushes. It was a ledger of my sins, written in sharp, unapologetic ink. Every page held secrets, petty betrayals, calculated flirtations, and the kind of choices that still made my stomach twist when I thought about them. The worst of it was what I did to Madison. She was my best friend. The one person who saw through my sharp edges and still chose to stay. Madison was soft where I was jagged, trusting where I was cynical. She loved fiercely. And she loved Chase, her boyfriend of 2 years. Chase was tall, charismatic, and a little too aware of his charm. He wasn't a good guy. But Madison saw something in him I never could. Maybe that's why I did it. Maybe I wanted to prove I could take something she cherished, just to see if I could. It started small. A lingering glance at a party, a teasing comment when Madison wasn't around. But I knew what I was doing. I flirted with Chase because I could feel the pull, the way his eyes lingered on me when she turned away. One night, at a bonfire party by the lake, with cheap vodka burning in my veins, I kissed him. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't love. It was a power move, and he didn't pull away. For weeks we sneaked around, stolen glances, late-night texts, hookups in his car while Madison thought he was at basketball practice. I told myself I felt guilty, but the truth was uglier. I liked the thrill of it, the rush of being chosen over her. When Madison found out, it wasn't dramatic like in the movies. There was no screaming match, no tearful confrontation. She just looked at me, her eyes hollow, and said, "I thought you were better than this." Then she walked away. Chase didn't chase her. He wasn't that kind of guy, but I felt the weight of her absence like a stone in my chest. That moment cracked something in me. Not enough to change me overnight, but enough to plant a seed of shame that grew over time. A year later I left for New York. I cut ties with everyone: Chase, my old friends, the whole toxic orbit of my hometown. I didn't go to reunions, didn't check social media, didn't look back. I reinvented myself, or at least I tried to. I went to therapy, took art classes, built a career. I became someone I could stand to look at in the mirror. But the diary stayed behind, locked away in my mother's attic. A ghost I thought I'd buried for good. Fast forward to last month. Tyler and I had been together for 2 years, living together in my cozy apartment, talking about marriage in that vague, hopeful way couples do. My mother's 60th birthday was coming up, and Tyler, ever the thoughtful boyfriend, insisted we visit her in my hometown. I hadn't been back in years, but I couldn't say no without raising red flags. So we went, and when my mom mentioned needing help cleaning out the attic, Tyler jumped at the chance. "It'll be fun," he said, already halfway up the stairs. I should have stopped him, but I was downstairs making tea, distracted. Assuming the past was still safely hidden, I was wrong. When I climbed the attic stairs, I found him sitting in a pool of lamplight, the diary open in his hands. His grin was boyish, excited, like he'd stumbled on a treasure. "Is this yours?" he asked, holding it up. "You kept a diary? That's so adorable." I snatched it from him, my hands shaking. Too fast, too desperate. His smile faltered. "What's in there?" he asked, his voice tinged with something new, suspicion. "Nothing," I said, clutching the diary to my chest. "Just stupid teenage stuff." But the damage was done. His eyes lingered on me, searching, and I knew he wasn't going to let it go. That night I lay awake in my childhood bedroom, the diary hidden under my pillow, replaying the moment. I should have burned it years ago. I should have thrown it into a fire and watched it turn to ash. But I didn't, and now it was a ticking bomb. We returned to New York, but the air between us had shifted. Tyler was quieter, his usual warmth replaced by a polite distance. I told myself he'd forget about it, that I could smooth it over with time. But a week later, I came home from work to find the diary on the coffee table, open to a page I'd written about Chase. My heart plummeted. Tyler stood in the kitchen, his back to me, washing dishes with a focus that felt deliberate. "I'm sorry," he said without turning around. "I know I shouldn't have read it. But I had to know." I couldn't speak. My throat felt like it was closing. "You lied to me," he continued, his voice steady but laced with hurt. "About everything. You said you were shy, that you didn't date much, that you were just some quiet kid. But this..." He gestured to the diary without looking at it. "This isn't quiet. This is cruel. I was a kid," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I was messed up. I didn't know who I was." He turned to face me, his eyes searching mine. "Do you know now? Or are you just better at hiding it?" That question cut deeper than anything else. It wasn't just about the diary. It was about us, about whether the person he'd fallen in love with was real. I tried to explain, stumbling over my words, telling him how ashamed I was, how I'd spent years trying to become someone better, someone who deserved him. But he just stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. "You could have told me," he said. "You should have told me." I wanted to scream that I was afraid he'd look at me the way he was looking at me now, like I was someone he couldn't trust. But I didn't say it. I just stood there, silent, as the distance between us grew. For the next few days we tiptoed around each other. He was polite but cold, his laughter gone, his touch absent. I gave him space, hoping he'd come around, that he'd see I wasn't that girl anymore. But 3 days later, I came home to an empty apartment. His books, his clothes, his toothbrush gone. On the counter was a note in his neat handwriting. "I need time to figure out who I was in love with, and whether she ever really existed." That line shattered me. For days, I was a ghost in my own life. I didn't eat, didn't sleep, didn't answer emails from work. I just sat on my couch, rereading the diary, hating the girl who wrote it. Why hadn't I burned it? Why had I kept this record of my worst self, like a trophy I was too afraid to destroy? I started to wonder if Tyler was right. Maybe I was still pretending, still hiding behind a mask of someone good, someone worthy. Then out of nowhere, Madison reached out. I'd been back in my hometown so briefly, but word travels fast in small places. She sent me a message on Instagram, short and tentative. "Hey, I heard you were in town. I've been thinking about you lately. Hope you're okay." I stared at the message for hours, my thumb hovering over the reply button. What could I possibly say to her after all these years? We met for coffee in a little shop in Brooklyn, where she was living now. She looked different, older, obviously, but softer somehow, like she'd found peace I hadn't. I didn't know what to expect, but I didn't expect her to smile when she saw me. We talked for hours, first about small things, her job as a social worker, my design projects, then about the past. I apologized, not with excuses but with the raw truth. I was young, selfish, and cruel, and I'd regretted losing her every day since. She listened, her eyes steady, and then she said something I didn't expect. I always believed there was a better version of you, she said. Maybe hurting me was what forced you to find her. Her forgiveness wasn't instant, but it was real. We hugged, and for the first time in years, I felt a piece of my past settle into place. Not as a wound but as a scar. Still there, but no longer bleeding. That night I messaged Tyler. I didn't beg or plead. I just told him what Madison had said, that I wasn't the person he thought I was, but I was trying to be someone who deserved him. I told him I'd keep trying with or without him. He didn't respond that night or the next or the next. But a week later my phone rang. His voice was quiet, guarded. I don't know if I can trust you, he said. But I miss you. And I want to try. We're taking it slow now, rebuilding on shaky ground. We talk more than we used to, really talk about the hard stuff. I've told him things I never thought I could, about the girl I was and the woman I'm trying to be. He listens, sometimes with pain in his eyes, but he's still here. And the diary? I didn't burn it. It sits on my nightstand, not as a secret but as a reminder. It's proof of who I was, and a promise to never go back.